I'm going to stick fairly close to my manuscript to guard against my tendency to waffle on and go off on rabbit trails. Megan's giving me this look that she knows exactly what I mean. I'm going to be giving an overview, basically, of what we're talking about. And can you hear me all right, guys? Mm-hmm. Okay. And my colleagues will delve deeper into some of these issues. There may be opportunity to explore my assertions later during our Q&A time. I managed to remember to bring one file folder of documents with me, so yeah. And before I forget, I must emphasize that Marie Antoinette did not say let them eat cake. She never said that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so what has changed in the 3 years since my week on welfare first aired? Not a whole lot, really. Income assistance recipients still often live 30 to 61% below the poverty line, are still painted as malingerers, that their own poor decisions are responsible for their present state, and society in general still buys into the stereotypes. Recipients must still deal with a system that is not terribly responsive, and despite words to the contrary by the Deputy Minister to the Standing Committee on Community Services, does not appear to value adequacy, nor assume dignity and inclusion, nor look at people's quality of life. It's evident to those of us who receive income assistance that the department is not really listening, let alone responding to recipients' concerns or suggestions. And again, this is something that my colleagues will speak to in greater depth. DCS/the government, depending, has ignored court decisions and orders. There's anecdotal evidence, a great deal of it, that crackdowns on special needs have increased, and that there have been indications that the infamous annual reviews will continue. As an admin assistant, a receptionist, an historian, a deacon, I understand the need for due diligence and checks and balances and so on. But holy cow, people, if you only knew. With regard to the company that the department has engaged to consult with them, I see issues. From what I have gathered in my reading and research, although I cannot at the moment lay my hand to it because I forgot it at home on my desk, the entity has historically had a focus of getting people back to work, an eye on the bottom line, and not so much figuring out what is best from an altruistic perspective or from the perspective of the social determinants of health. Again, this is the research I have done, so I'm willing to be corrected, but that's what I've found so far. Again, this is in the context of 60 to 70%, possibly more depending on whom you talk to, of income assistance recipients being unable to work, or they've had their ability to do so degraded to the point that even though perhaps they can do some things, no secular or regular employer would really have the patience to employ them. I speak from experience on that front as well. Further to this, according to my admittedly very rough calculations, and math is not my strong suit, but still, the amount spent on these consultations so far would have been enough to have given recipients a more livable increase. I don't expect to live the life of Riley, as my grandmother would have phrased it, on social assistance, but I do expect to live. In the interest of time, I'll forego commenting on the bus pass debacle and the need to address the power, accountability, trust balance. Because if you have a system, if you have a situation where all of the power and authority is on one side and all of the accountability is on the other, even with the best of intentions, it can be difficult for trust to thrive. I dislike immensely talking about myself and of complaining, but I've been asked to do so here. On a personal level, in the years since the documentary aired, I've become something of a fighter, something of an advocate. I'm an ISFJ on the Myers-Briggs personality scale, which means that conflict or argument, fighting, anything like that is anathema to my very nature. Now, sure, like most guys, I enjoy a good tussle. I enjoy hitting the heavy bag, or I guess I should say I used to enjoy that, because I can't do it anymore. I enjoy the UFC. But fundamentally, I thrive on taking care of people, of creating and living amidst order and harmony. I'm a lover, not a fighter, as my grandfather used to say. The fact that I become a fighter, an advocate, should tell you all that you need to know about what it's like to deal with the Department of Community Services, especially the ESIA section. And they've proven that they really can't be trusted from one's perspective. With regard to what it is like to manage with the amount I receive, these days I have $50, not 127, it's 50 now, left for my IA check once I pay my basic bills and make my tithe. That's for food, medicine, grooming and cleaning supplies, and everything else. I have to ration my food and my medicine to make them last. And my check will further decrease in October. I live in fear of an eventual rent increase, even though my landlord is awesome. And I live in fear of needing anything medicine-wise that isn't covered by the Nova Scotia formulary, because it will, quote, not be covered regardless of medical need, end quote. When a friend asks me to do something with them, the first thing that occurs to me is this: how can I get out of this gracefully? Because I can't afford it, and it's not fair to them to always be paying for me. I can afford to do one load of laundry a week, which means that my bed linen is changed once every 3 weeks or so, which is quite disgusting. There are clothes in my closet from what seems like another lifetime that I rarely wear anymore because they require special care. Even something as simple as coffee with a friend often requires some degree of advanced planning. Life's unexpected happenings can be a mini disaster, and the highlights can be tinged with sadness too. To make a long story short, I didn't get to my mother's funeral because I didn't have the funds for fuel. And one Christmas Eve day not long ago, I sat in my living room and I cried my eyes out because I couldn't afford to get my best friend's little guy a present. He had a birthday in August. He turned 5. And we had a good time and he enjoyed himself. And he's an awesome little dude. Some more energy than... At the end of the night, he went around the house thanking everyone and hugging everyone. And he came to me and he hugged me and he said, "Thank you for my birthday present, Aron." And I didn't have the heart to tell him I didn't get him one this year because I couldn't afford it. I knew enough about the reality of the system before I applied in the wake of my job loss to be wary. I grew up around people who had to depend on it. In fact, I contemplated suicide. I sat at my kitchen table for some time, contemplating a glass of water and 3 bottles of pills. I put that away from me and I made the call because I promised my best friend that I would, and I am a man of my word. To contemplate such a solution is forbidden for someone such as I. Despite being extremely wary, despite being enough to consider that option, and an initial encounter with my very first caseworker that was not all it could be, I was willing to trust, to give them a chance. It took them less than 3 months to destroy that. There are 2 main issues with regard to our social assistance system: an attitude issue and inadequate supports. Both could be addressed by such relative cost-neutral means as this: ceasing the practice of second-guessing clients' physicians' requests and diagnoses, an increase in the shelter allowances to to more accurately reflect the average reality of the cost of housing, and allowing individuals to keep more of the money they receive from time to time, and invest in people through taking into account the social determinants of health. The department claims that it's transforming the system, that they're addressing these concerns, but in all honesty, I've seen few signs of that where the rubber meets the road, where clients and caseworkers intersect with the system. The consultations I've been involved with have been more like information dispensing sessions than genuine dialogue, and even the increase to come in 2019 of 5% for those who are disabled would amount to about $40 or $50 a month max. It's better than nothing, but I think also of those good caseworkers who do care and who do try, who are stymied and frustrated by the current system, by unwritten policies and directives and assumptions that interpret and influence that which is written down, and which in some cases, some have argued, may even flout the very law itself. Many of those workers burn out and leave, or they become hardened.
Hi, everyone. I think all professionalism has gone out the window at this point. So, my name is Megan MacBride. I'm a social worker here in Halifax, and I have the lucky opportunity to be part of the Benefit Reform Action Group and the Community Agenda for Social Assistance, Adequacy and Reform. And that's what I'm going to speak to you about today, is this CASAR group. We've been active for about a year now. In December, we released a community agenda for our vision. When I say our, I mean folks who are living on income assistance and their allies, for what true transformative consultation could look like here in Nova Scotia. We picked apart things from different places, the process Ontario is going through, the work that was done in our own disability support program here in Nova Scotia, and we released an agenda directly to Premier Stephen McNeill and other folks who are involved in the transformation. We want a consultation process that is inclusive, respectful, and evidence-based. We want a system that's based on adequacy and human rights. Conversations that our group and other groups that I've been part of have been disrespectful and dismissive. And they've been disrespectful and dismissive of the experience of those hardworking, wonderful people who are living in poverty on income assistance right now. Generations of welfare policy has made this so. It has been violent, shaming, and especially so to people of color, people with disabilities, and those battling addictions. As a social worker, I deal with the social determinants of health, the things outside of our bodies that make us unwell. Things like housing security, food security, and access to recreation. A system that provides only $300 a month for shelter, or a whopping $535 if you have a disability, is not interested in sustaining people or encouraging them to thrive. The average rent in North End Halifax is $850 for a one-bedroom apartment, and this is in the area where many social housing projects are. A system that does not provide basic dental care is not interested in investing in human potential. A system that allows a whole family to go hungry because one family member was fired from their job is not interested in ending intergenerational poverty. CASAR is concerned with the realities and processes that have taken place for this ESIA transformation, a process that has taken place behind closed doors, even to the dedicated advocates who are here tonight. Again, I'll echo what Aron has said. What can you do to help us? You can read our agenda, which can be found online under the Community Association of, no, wrong one. The Community Agenda for Social Assistance, Adequacy and Reform. You can ask questions in question period. You can speak to folks like Brandon Grant and Lynn Hartwell about what is going on in the transformation, and you can let us know because we are all still wondering.